Welcome to Refined Conversations, a podcast where faith is unfiltered and authenticity is required. Every conversation is unscripted, so come prepared for the raw truth of what walking with God can really look like. Settle in, open your heart, and let's dive into today's conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It supports our channel, and we appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refined Conversations. I'm your host, Courtney. Today, we have Ashley Watkins on with us. Welcome to the podcast, Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited about this episode. So true to form, we're going to go ahead and pray, and then we'll jump in. Father God, I thank you for Ashley. I thank you for bringing us together. I pray and ask that you would be with us as we go throughout this podcast, that you would speak through us into this conversation and bless all who hear. I pray that you would minimize us and maximize you so that you get the praise, the glory, and the honor. We give thanks. We ask these blessings in the mighty name of Jesus. We pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So your question is, how have you considered God before self when the pivot is alignment rather than a choice? This question comes from how many struggle with what they've been called to do. And when God moves you from a place that he's placed you before you feel like you're ready and he puts you into another transition season, how do you let go of what you want and what you saw for yourself in that season and transition to the next one in trusting in God?
Such a good question. I love good questions. So I tussle. Everybody else,
Honesty.
I tussle. Like, I just got to keep it real because I don't want to make it seem like it lands on me and then I just be obedient and just follow through. And what helped me was I had to figure out, like, what is my mindset and what are my thoughts versus what is the Holy Spirit? Like, how can I separate those?
Mhm.
And I realized when I get to those points where I need to pivot, I know it's me because I'm ruminating. I'm tussling with myself.
Yeah.
And then when it's God, it's like a whisper and then he leaves it alone. He's like, hey, do what you will.
That is so true.
It doesn't torment you, right? Whereas like our own thoughts just spiral into like, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? I've had to do this multiple times and it does take me a minute to get on board.
Mhm.
And as I grow like more in my spirituality, that time period of tussling just gets shorter. And like, as my goal is soon, one day, it's going to be no tussle.
Exactly.
I'm going to be like, okay, this is what God told me to do. I think my last pivot, there wasn't much of a tussle. I was like, okay, because I'm just tired of learning the hard way. So I don't want to go against anything. I just want to be obedient. Like last time I wasn't obedient, I got drugged. So I'm going to just drag myself to the truth this time and just face it. It's not easy is my point. It's like, it's something that I always have to take a little second to process and then just do it.
No, I completely agree with you. And it's interesting because in my life, the transitions have not been small. It's like, oh, move to another state where you don't know anybody or quit your corporate job and start depending completely on me. And so in those moments, God, through his graciousness, has given me time and kind of months to kind of sit and wrestle with it to the point where I'm like, I don't even know why I questioned God in that moment because I'm like, this was like the best decision. And I wanted to. Here's the crazy thing. You asked for it. I can remember the prayer when I said, Lord, I feel like I just want to go live somewhere else, even if it's just for a little while. But then it's like, he gives it to you at what you may deem as the most inopportune moment, totally shifting whatever you're going through and shifting the season that you're in. And you're like, now you want to argue. When I'm like, I gave you what you asked for. And so, yeah, when it came to the move, I think that was a hard one. But then as soon as I accepted it, I was like, okay, can I leave now? And now he's like, no, you need to wait. and that's how it goes. But it's funny because I'm in the midst of another one right now. And I didn't argue as much as I did the first time. And I'm like, okay, that shows growth on my part, number one. Yeah. But it shows the level of trust that I have in God and his plan, because I mean, it went well this time. And while it may not be like exactly the same, clearly it won't be exactly the same, I have a better idea of how God moves. and how he
Mhm.
speaks to me. And when I call to him and I say, Lord, I need help with this, or I'm uncomfortable, I now know the feeling of that grace so that I can recognize it when it happens again.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like using your wisdom in real time instead
Hmm.
of just forgetting about it and then just every time facing it the same way. What you said when you said trust, I was instantly like, this is all a big faith thing a lot of times,
Hmm.
because I know that you may have an idea of which direction you want to go in,
Hmm.
but how you're going to get there, you don't know. So it's
Yeah.
like that part, I had to succumb to that. Like, I have no idea how God is going to get me to this. And I need to stop trying to figure it out. I need to stop trying to make everything line up and be linear and lead to this end result, because usually God's plans are like, then you get
Hmm.
there, right? But there's no way that I would have gave myself that route. So I use like a comparison of, like, when someone's playing basketball and there's like this score that they draw the plays out and the X's and O's, and they're like, you're gonna go this way and then you're gonna do this, and then I don't know if that's basketball or football. I'm not a sports person.
It's a sport.
Sounded good. But I look at God like that. Like, he's writing the plays, and all we want is a touchdown. So
Hmm.
we're like, okay, we don't know, but then if later when we go back in hindsight, we see all of the plays and why they were necessary in
Yeah.
order to make that touchdown. But in the moment, you're like, why would you want me to go this way when I said I wanted this? So I don't think you even understand that it is part of what you asked for. You
Yeah.
think it's going to show up in a different way that you planned because you thought you were God. It's okay. You had that
That
idea.
part. That part. Yes.
And he's like, okay, now my child, we're going to do
Hmm.
it that way. And you have to just be okay with that. I still know scripturally his plans are for me to prosper, period. So whatever way it takes me, it's going to end up in me prospering, and it's going to be for
Hmm.
my best good. And I don't necessarily even know what my best good is, because I don't have the mind of God. And that's really what I
That's
think it
good.
boils down to.
Yeah, that's good. And when it comes to trusting God, I feel like trusting becomes easier when you stand in obedience to God.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times when we're like, okay, God, I'll trust you when you give me the details. I'll trust you when
Yeah.
you let me in a little bit. And God's like, nah, it doesn't work like that. My pastor did a sermon and he said something along the lines of, it's that first step of obedience that leads to the first detail. So if you refuse to
Mm.
take the first step, then you won't get any follow through from God until
Mm.
you do what he told you to do last. And
I love
so for me, it's very much like, I have surrendered my life to you. I said I'm going to trust you. What does it say? I can't remember what the term is. It's in Isaiah, but it's like, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And it starts with an H. I'm going to figure it out, but like probably at midnight. But
that.
it's the word that he uses, and it's like Isaiah says, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And I say that to God, and then the Lord says, okay, I'm sending you. And then how am I supposed to sit here like, okay, where, when, how, what, why, all the questions. And it's just like, okay, you're sending me. The first step is obedience. Allow me to take the first step to do exactly what you just told me to do, and the details will follow.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy you shared that, because I like needed to hear that too. It's like, just take that first step,
Hmm.
and then the details will follow. That's really gold, because it is the first step that scares you anyways, because you're like, are you sure you want
Yeah.
to do this? Like, one example of a time when it happened for me is recently when I decided to niche down to only focus on faith-based businesses.
Hmm.
It's like God was telling me in every way possible that what I was doing was not working. I would literally get burned out, and then I'd rest and trust God, and then he'd send me a client. And then I'd go back to toiling. 5 to 7 business days later, I'm back in there.
That sounds about right. That sounds about
And
right.
then what happens is I keep bumping my head until, and it's really funny to look back on, because the whole time I'm going, I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand why this is not going the way that I want it to go. But it's like, you're not being obedient. Do you understand that part? Because you
Wow.
won't even take the first step, and you're trying to figure out why it's going that way. And I ran my marketing agency for years, not calling myself a Christian or wanting to work with other Christians, just wanting to just kind of be like every other marketer, and it never worked for me. I don't care how much work I put into it. It just didn't fulfill me. I would have the craziest clients. No shade to them. I love them, but it would be a wild ride with those
Mm-hmm.
clients. And finally it clicked. It's like pivot. I think the last sign, I know God wasn't going to give up on me, but sometimes I'm like, God, I'm a little slow. Just give me one more. Come on, help me. I don't know. Come on, help me out a little bit. And I think the last thing was me getting into ministry and trying to do things in ministry that God was calling me to do in my business. And
Mm,
the reason that was becoming more evident is because I'm not the pastor of that church.
yeah.
So I only can do according to the vision of that church.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the vision is big, I don't have ownership in it. And when I come in, I'm not able to use my full talents and skills and abilities because it's not my vision. They're like, okay, you're in ministry. This is what we need help with.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas in my business, God wanted to me to make a bigger impact in a different way, because now serving in ministry is great, but when I take those limits off and I apply what I wanted to do to Christian entrepreneurs in my own business, there's no limits. There's
Mm-hmm.
like, God is like, okay, this person has this mission. You're going to help them market it. And that's going to be your mission. And then you're going to have double the impact because you're helping them with their impact. And then it just multiplies exponentially. Whereas in ministry, I was just doing what I was told. And it was also an ego check, because sometimes you get in ministry to feel like you're a good person.
Yeah.
I serve in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel guilty about doing something that you charge for. You're like, I don't care about that little job. I just want to serve the Lord. When the truth is, you're still serving the Lord in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to like get rid of a lot of things, like self-righteousness and the need to be like acknowledged by men and get appraisal and approval
Oh.
by men, and wanting that validation from people. And all of that is not God. All of
Oh,
it.
absolutely. And you
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. That is something that I struggled with so much. God had to put me in my place last year because that just self-righteousness and wanting to be seen and heard and be like, I have this gift. Let me shout it from the rooftop. Like, God, you
Yeah.
gave me this gift to use it. Let me magnify you, but myself at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
I was planning an event and I ended up having to cancel the event. But in the midst of planning the event, the Lord was like, no, I told you to plan the event. I didn't tell you to speak. I didn't tell you to teach, lead, nothing. I told you to plan. And He sent me all these people and they filled all the spaces. So I didn't even need to talk. Like, you didn't even need to know that I was there at the
Yeah.
at a certain point. And that was very humbling because I ended up working on a different retreat last year. That retreat blessed me. And I spent 2 hours washing dishes, like just washing dishes, making coffee, making sure everybody had what they needed, taking out the trash, doing all that. And I found so much joy in things that were mundane.
Mm.
It's like when you're at home, you don't want to wash dishes. Like
Right.
you'd rather pile them in the dishwasher.
Mm.
To find joy in doing a task that I don't readily really want to do at home, that I have a machine for, and picking up the table, sweeping up the floor, and just picking up after all these people that I don't know. My very first job was in housekeeping as a guest service representative at a hotel. This literally took me back to that. You could not, like, I'm just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That was so humbling. It was so humbling because there was so much ministry and they blessed me at the end of the retreat, because you think that nobody can see you and see what you're doing. But they were like, you did all of this and you did it with a smile. Like, you were gracious, you were kind, you were helpful. And I'm like, I don't even remember talking to you, not to be rude or anything like that. But I'm like, I was so busy with all the tasks that was ministry. That was serving. And it made its own type of impact to where I didn't even have to open my mouth and stand in front of anybody. And I think that people take that for granted, that the way that we live, the way that we're called to walk is your ministry. When the little job you don't want to do, the project you don't want to sign on to because you feel like it's not big enough, or you don't want to take the job as the receptionist, being the smile, the first point of contact that they have, the last point of contact when they leave. That office, that is all ministry. You have the ability to impact how somebody starts their day and how they go home and end their day. And I think that everything counts. And if we just took stock of where our heart is, we would see how often God actually puts us in situations where we can minister and be used by him for greater impact.
Yeah, that's so good. There's so many gems you dropped in there. I'm trying to follow my, like, which
I didn't
do I
mean to
want
be
to
that
jump on?
long-winded.
I'm which one do I want to jump on and like take it and run? But one thing, when you first started talking about the self-righteousness and like when you're trying to get into ministry, I have a theory about this.
Mhm.
This is just my theory, could be wrong. I have a theory that when you are seeking that outside validation and you are wanting to be seen and you want people to know that you're in ministry and you're eager to jump in so you can feel like you're a good person and all that, I think you get taken advantage of,
Mhm.
because the person, it's not like they're a predator. I don't even think they know that they're doing it. And this didn't happen at my church, thank God. But in other situations, someone might see that eagerness and be like, okay, now do this, do that, do this, do
Yeah.
that, and because they see you're so desperate for validation and to be acknowledged and to be feel like you're doing something important. So now I can use that. And it's like the manipulation in you is awakening the manipulation in someone else. It's
Mhm.
like that spirit is now in them too, because they're like, oh yeah, you want all this recognition? I got exactly what you need. Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? And then people start complaining about they're getting burned out in ministry and all these different things. But it's like, when you come in with that type of attitude, you can put yourself in a position, whether it's intentional or not, where people are like, well, isn't this what you wanted? Like, you
Mhm.
want to feel so important. There you go. Boom. You're over the admin, the media, and the praise team.
Yeah.
And like, and it's like, I don't think it's like I said, I don't think it's like a predatory thing. I just feel like that spirit in you of like desperation, it actually calls in a spirit of manipulation, because it's like
Yeah.
you're desperate and now I'm going to use that desperation to get you to do all of these different things. We're going to run you to the ground with volunteer work,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's because this is what you wanted. And that's my theory, because I see when people are overly ambitious, like how I was, I can see it in them, and I could see them just feeling like, but the belief behind that is that they can do works to get to heaven,
Yeah.
right? That's the belief behind it. So they're
I will
adding on.
bust that wide open right here. Don't send me down that down
Okay,
that path.
that's the tea. Yeah, that's the bottom of it, of what's going on. And so that's what they're doing. They're adding to
Mhm.
their list of, I did this, I fast, I pray, I did, and then it doesn't turn out the way they expected it to. But it's like, you thought you could work your way into heaven, didn't you?
Mhm.
And now look, now
Yeah.
you're lost.
Yeah. Well, the enemy will exploit anything that you make available.
Oh
And
yes.
so I feel like I've been in that seat before where I wanted to be everything to everyone. I've done it in relationships where I wanted to be everything to that person. And
Hmm.
then you realize, oh, why am I being manipulated? And why is all of a sudden he a narcissist? It's because you opened the door and you allowed it in. And so he's going to exploit and magnify that very thing that you idolize, that you fantasize over. You're giving him a foothold to stand in. And
Yeah.
so I think your statement is like spot on. As an overachiever that would take on projects, and I one of the companies I worked with, I took on project after project after project, and I kept saying, okay, I think it's time for me to have a raise. Like, I'm doing the job of like 4 people. And they were
Mhm.
like, no, like, you're learning right now. And I'm like, am I learning? Because I feel overwhelmed. I feel burned out. And it got to the point where I actually called my manager and I was like, I am not coming in this week. Like, I
Mm.
cannot. I don't want to think, look, see anything. I am done. And he was like, I told you were going to get burned out. And I was like,
Oh.
well, if y'all would stop giving me all these projects, he was like, you accept them, you take them, you say nothing, and you say, okay, I can help. I can help. And so you do it to yourself. And so pretty much I feel like there's such a big lesson in that, but I feel like a lot of times we put ourselves in these situations and we have the ability to kind of dial it back. I think that there is a point of no return. There's always that moment where we have that thought, that nudging of like, this is too much. You have this, you have this, you have this, and we ignore it. And the moment that we ignore it, that's when the spiral starts happening and you start to get overwhelmed. Like, oh, it's going to come at some point because there's only so much you can do. And if you're not even doing what you were gifted to do, that makes it 10 times worse. God told me to start a podcast back in 2020. And I had a podcast called Living Room Confessional. And that podcast was supposed to be refined conversations.
Oh.
But I went straight worldly because I wanted views. And I started realizing, okay, I understand the algorithm a little bit. Let me start doing this. And if I do this and I do that and I have this kind of person on, I have some that would get so many views. And I was just like, okay, let me feed off of this and let me do another one really quick. And I was putting out these episodes every week. And I burned out after 6 months. I was just done, and I could never be consistent after that because number one, I stepped outside of God's will for what he called me to do. I took on way too much for my schedule, working a full-time job, trying to start another company and do podcasting, and I'd never worked for myself before. I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to learn. I ended up getting burned out so fast because I took on so much, and I went through so many problems because in that moment, I opened the door to complain to anybody who would listen about how hard podcasting was and how hard this was and that was. And I'm like, I did it to myself. There was a moment where I knew, dial it back. This is too much, but I decided to keep going because everybody was like, be a boss babe, be hungry, hustle. That is not the language of God by any means.
It's not. It's actually the opposite.
Exactly.
If you really think about it, it's like so the other direction. That's good though. That happened to me too. When you said 6 months, I was like, you lasted 6 months? I got burnt out by like episode 9. I was like, this is, I don't know. And then I brought in someone to help me. And then I realized what you're saying. Like, I'm outside of God's will. It's not that I need more support. Like the burnout is not coming from a lack of support. It's coming from a lack of obedience.
Yeah.
Because I brought somebody on and it still didn't work out. So yeah, to your point, it's like, okay, you want to do it for the world because you're like, it's like you have FOMO. You're like, oh, I don't want to miss out on the opportunity of this being big for everyone. Yeah. But that's not what God called you to do. And it definitely shouldn't be for everyone. Like, we have to start looking at that as like a negative thing. Like, if it goes viral, then maybe it wasn't good because the majority of people are a little off. So if you're rocking with the majority, I'm going to question. But if you are doing something that is not like what everybody else is doing, you probably more than likely are walking in God's will. And that's what I think makes it like a little scary because you're walking alone. He's not calling you to do what everybody else is doing. This is what the directions he gave you. And sometimes you can also be ahead. Like, he'll give you directions that are ahead of where you're at. And you're like, that's what you want me to do? Like, nobody's doing that yet. Like, nobody's doing that. And he's like, I'm putting you on. This is going to be a trend.
You're supposed to set the tone. You're setting the tone for what's coming.
You are the trendsetter. I'm giving you you're the trendsetter. And a great example of that is I used to have a personal training business. And I knew that at some point, this is pre-COVID, I was like, people are not going to want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So I started training people on Zoom. It started with actually during that time, it was Skype. People wasn't on Zoom really like that. It was Skype.
I haven't heard Skype in so long.
It was Skype. That's how long ago it was, right? I was like, I'm going to Skype people. And I ended up had a lot of in-person clients, but I had one person that was on Skype. And God was telling me that like virtual training was going to be a thing. But back then it wasn't a thing. So I was going through programs. I was writing my business plan and stuff. And nobody in the world got what I was saying. Like, it was just too early. People were like, so you think someone's going to open their computer and let you train them? I'm like, actually, I do. Like, because I was able to see where the problem lied with clients. Sometimes it's just getting to the gym. Sometimes they had a rough day. Sometimes they want to do something lightweight. They want to be in the comfort of their own home. And in 2019, I moved. So I made my clients go virtual if they wanted to still work with me. I'm like, hey, I'm not in this area anymore. And I had about 5 clients. I trained them virtually. Nobody was doing this. There wasn't like an online challenge thing, like nobody was doing this. And then I ended up completing that business and moving on to something else. And then years later, online programs is a major thing.
A major thing now, yeah.
Major thing. And when it was my idea, I got super discouraged and fearful because every time I told somebody, they would be like, And it was like business advisors, right? They'd be older and they'd never seen anything like that before. They'd be like, now, how are you going to do this? They couldn't like make sense of the model. And I'm like, how are you not making sense of this? I can literally work with more people by doing this way. But it didn't make sense to anybody. And I knew I needed more Godfidence because I knew what I was talking about. But the doubt started to creep in when other people start being like, you sure God told you this? Or that's not a trend. Like everybody else is doing this. And then I started scaling back on the online stuff and doing what everybody else was doing. And now at that point, people are comparing me to other people, right? Before I couldn't be compared because nobody else had an online program. But now I'm going up to people and I'm pitching people and they're like, I got a trainer that comes to my house. I got a trainer that I'm like, Ashley, you gonna listen next time. You gonna listen. And don't be afraid if the world hasn't caught up yet to what God is telling you to do. You have to have that confidence and that boldness. Like, okay, you know what? I know this is coming from the Holy Spirit. If nobody agrees with it, I don't need them to. Now, fast forward, I don't ask people about ideas I have because we grown now. We just don't even run it by people. We just do it and we talk to God about it until it's done.
Absolutely.
I don't run it past people to see like, what do you think about this? I don't look for their validation at all. Unless I'm getting consulting that I'm paying for. I don't really want to go collect opinions about what God told me to do. I can't do it.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is if you live by the opinions of others or if you look for the accolades in others, you'll die by their criticism. Ooh. And I absolutely 1000% believe that. I've had so many people from Tiffany Montgomery to people that I know that are like, stop talking. Stop telling people about what the next plan is. Stop telling people what your ideas are. Just keep it to yourself and allow them to see the finished product. Allow them to see you move through it, but they don't need to know what you're doing. Because the thing about it is that they will distort so quickly what God has called them to do. When I take on clients with my consulting business, I work with entrepreneurs before they get their LLC. And one of the biggest challenges that I see within them is the fact that everybody has an idea that they think should either be compounded with your idea or is better than your idea. And before you know it, you're doing something completely different than what you started off to do. Wow. And so I've had to go and tell people, stop telling people what your plans are. Don't tell them about your business until your business is secure, until your ideas are flushed out and your vision is clear. Like, just keep it to yourself, because what you don't want people doing is distorting what God told you to do. And then you end up in situations like we had. So in this season, it's been so refreshing because like I have Refined Network and I'm able to be loud about that right now because I'm like, it's moving forward. But then also I have other projects within there that I don't talk about. And people are like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm getting stuff done. I'm
not telling y'all.
Short, sweet to the point. Need to know information only. You know what I mean? And so I really enjoy it. And it takes the stress off because I don't feel like I have so many eyes on it. When God called me out, I felt like everybody was watching me, waiting for me to fail. Yes. People would ask me questions and it was so suspect. And I'm like, why would you even ask that question? And then it would it's like the spirit would start ticking, this like familiar spirit, monitoring spirit. And I'm like, really though, everybody? But honestly, if they open the door, the enemy will use it. And so I had to pull it back and I had to be quiet. Doing things God's way is always opposite of what the world would have you do or what the world says it's supposed to look like. And so a lot of us pray, God, give me these bold ideas and allow me to do these things for your kingdom. Well, God's going to put you in front of the pack quite often when it comes to the ideas because he already knows what's happening, but he knows what's coming. So God's not going to give you something that makes you fall into the back and blend in with everything else. He's going to do something for his glory. So he's going to put you in the front of the pack. So even though the idea might not make sense like you had in that moment, you could have been leading the pack. Just like years ago, had I done this, Christian podcasts were not a big thing back then. When I started Living Room Confessional, there were like very few. All these celebrity podcasts that popped up into 2020 and into 2021, they were not there. I could have had a different place and different momentum during that time, but I decided to do what Courtney wanted to do. And so I just have to always encourage people, like, when God gives you an idea, when he gives you a vision or a revelation about something, hold it to yourself until it's time to tell everybody once it's done. And then when God gives you something to do and he gives you direction in something, you have to trust him. It's not going to make sense always. It's not going to look the way you think it's going to look. Even the funny thing is, even when he gives you the vision is still smaller than what the actual thing is probably going to be.
It's just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Mm-hmm. He
I don't know
gave
if
you as
want to
much
go
as you
there,
could
but
handle in that moment.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I kind of want to go down that monitoring spirit rabbit hole just a tiny bit, just a little bit, the
Let's go.
familiar spirit thing, because that happened to me when I
Mhm.
pivoted to launch this. People would ask me to do stuff and I'd be like, I'm in the middle of a rebrand. So like I would tell them what I was doing because I wasn't available anymore. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm relaunching, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I didn't even have to tell them that much detail, but I'd be like, hey, I'm in the middle of doing this. And then it got to a point, like you said, I started getting text messages. How'd the rebrand go? Are you done? How'd the rebrand go? How'd the rebrand go? And I'm like, I know you don't care this much about my rebrand. You care about it more than I do at this
Yeah.
point. And the questions kept coming. And then I felt like they were, like you said, waiting to see me fail. And then it was all coming to fruition because what ended up happening, I remember one day I was working on my landing page for like a freebie I was doing.
Mhm.
I walked into the kitchen and I cut my foot. I was like, how did I cut my foot? Like, I'm bleeding and now I can't finish working on my landing page and it hurts. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, this is weird. The next day, people still asking me, how's the launch? How's the launch? I'm working in a software that didn't auto save my landing page.
Mhm.
I deleted the whole page.
What?
The moment I told people and people were asking me, everything I attempted did not work. I cried when I deleted that page. No shame over here.
I went too. That's a lot of work.
Literally sobbed. I was like, this cannot be. I was in AI trying to figure out if I could recover it and everything. And long story short, I knew it was because I told all of these people, even in a prideful way, right? I'm working on my rebrand, right? Like, like I'm a big boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I don't know what those people were thinking, what their intentions were, if they were sending negative thoughts my way, or if they were internally, or if a jealous spirit took over their heart. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But then when the questions started coming, that's when I recognized, I was like, I shouldn't have said anything, because it was also making me feel what you said, the pressure. Yeah. I'm like, why am I feeling this much pressure? It got to a point where I realized that I hadn't even announced it to the public, and I felt so stressed. And I was like,
and then it makes you not want to do what you know you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not even behind. Nobody even knows about this. And these people that are asking me, one day I finally told one person, she's like, oh, it sucks that you're so behind. I was like, actually, you're the only person asking me. Nobody else is even asking me but you. And that kind of slowed that down, because like, baby, what you doing? Like, it kind of brought perspective to her that like, you're checking for these results and my actual customers aren't even checking for these results. Yeah. So I had to like kind of put a boundary up there, because I started realizing like this pressure is coming from someone that is not in my audience, not waiting for deliverables. Like, that's not appropriate pressure for what's going on here. These are people that are associates, people that I see in the community, people that I know, they're friends, and they have no stake in this. But now they're so interested and they're watching every single thing. And I had to be careful, because I don't want to have a spirit of offense and open up a door in my life because I'm offended by a question. And I'm like, okay, this is a slippery slope, because all of the doors that can be opened just from me opening my mouth. Yeah. It can snowball into other things, and it could even cause me to sin, right? Like, what if I start cursing that person that's asking the questions and having offense and not forgiving them, right? It's like, okay, now there's all these other side streets that I can end up on that never was my intention. So I'm with you on the not saying anything. Me and my husband have a pact that we don't tell people stuff. That's like our rule.
That's a good pact.
It's a good pact. Like, it's the reason that it came was from disobedience. Every time we did something, he would tell his coworkers, I would tell my homegirls, and then we would have a lot of fear, because people would bring up stuff that we never even considered. We were just like blind faith going into stuff, and people would be like, you sure? Yeah. Read this about that. Oh, see, why did we even tell them?
They will instill fear in you before you even get started. And the crazy thing is, you don't know who they're talking to. So it
Oh.
might not even be them. It could be somebody they're associated with. I love the perspective that you have, and you are absolutely right. You have to be very careful with who you talk to and how you talk to people and what you divulge and how quickly you divulge information, because it's not even about like the business or what the topic was. There's actually somebody that I had in my life, and every time I saw this person, they would want to talk about relationships. And you know, girls, we love to talk about relationships and what's going on. And so I would let her in and we would talk about kind of the past. To me, I was like, oh, we're getting to know each other. And this is just a part of the history. And so she would always bring up my exes and like clockwork. The minute either I was with her or the moment I left her, they would call. And I was like, this is too much. The first time it happened, I was like, this is weird. The next time it happened, there was a physical ex-boyfriend in my presence that doesn't even, live near me. And I was like, okay, that's too much. And then we went out for coffee again. And this was probably the last time I saw her. He called and she lit up. And I was like, something's wrong. I didn't put my finger on it, but that's a familiar spirit.
It is.
And I was just like, it's not a coincidence. It's not a sign for you to get back with that person. It's literally like, oh, something was monitoring. There was a door open. And so I don't know how to say this without making y'all feel some kind of way, but spirits talk and they talk to each other.
Oh, yes.
Just like the spirit will talk through a person, spirits can talk without being in anything, but just being in the spirit. And the thing about it is the spirits communicate with one another. They've been at this since the beginning, since the fall from heaven.
Yeah.
And so they know how to read people and they know who to go to. And I heard a pastor say this, and he was like, since the moment you were born, you have had a spirit attached to you taking notes. If you have a spirit attached to you taking notes that are in the books in heaven about everything that you've done, you have on the other side a spirit taking notes of everything that you have done, saying, okay, we're going to bring this up in 20 years. We're going to bring this up in a couple of weeks. Let me bring this person back and see, because she's struggling with the things she was struggling with then. So if I bring this person back, I can cripple her. And so there's a whole network that you cannot see. And this is something that we do not talk about enough in churches.
I thought you were going to say, because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, there are spirits that are obsessed with people.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
Absolutely.
that type of way. And then you said, since you were born, and I'm like, yeah, that is true. Like they're assigned to you.
Exactly. And you don't consider it because everybody's like, the angels in heaven are watching over me. Just as the angels are watching over you, they watch over you because guess what else is watching you? The dark spirits. And so I feel like a lot of people are flying blind out here because you don't get this kind of education in most churches. And so I always tell people, I go to Lionheart Church and I have never been more spiritually in tune and I just joined this church a couple of months ago, but the level of teaching, this is a different level of teaching, but once you hear it, it makes so much sense because you'll start understanding the warfare around you, but you'll also understand what you thought was a coincidence. It's actually a familiar spirit that was waiting in the wings for you to do something. What you thought was just somebody being nice was actually a monitoring spirit that was trying to find a foothold. And you're like, oh, I'm just going through a season where I'm a little lazy. I don't want to do stuff. You have a Python spirit. There's so many different types of spirits out there. And we think, oh, let me hyper focus on Christ. This is the whole thing that Christ taught. We contend with darkness every single day. Everything in the New Testament is about Paul telling you, like, you're fighting your flesh, you're fighting human nature to be righteous. And it's that tug of war, that push and pull. You have the enemy in your ear on this side saying, nobody will know if you take that. Like, it's okay. And then you have heaven over here that's like, right from wrong. You have the Holy Spirit within you. There's a whole different level to this. And I don't know how far you want to go in there, but
I'm just
like, the spirit world is real. I do not play. And I am here, like, as I get educated, I am happy to share.
Listen, I'm happy to take it in. I was actually telling a friend of mine earlier, I was like, when you're a baby Christian and you're new, everything is demonic. And then you kind of like scale back from that and you're like, okay, let me calm down. And then you get more wise and you kind of go back to that. I'm like, you're like, no, wait, this I was right the first time. This is spiritual warfare. I wasn't tripping, and everything is demonic. You gotta
Every
come
other,
back to that.
honestly,
Like, you're like, okay, I wasn't being extreme. It's not that everything is demonic. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but like, you start to see, wait, I wasn't doing too much when I was seeing that there's spirituality and everything. There's spiritual warfare is going on. One of
mhm.
the things that I'm blessed with, that sorry God, I don't like this, but you blessed it with me, is that I have the strongest discernment. Like, I have the
Mhm.
strongest discernment. And when I'm in a situation, I can easily see that monitoring spirit. I can easily see it, and it's so disturbing to me. I'm
Mhm.
just like, so even that is a way for the enemy to torment me, because the enemy knows I don't like that. And I don't like
Mhm.
that I can see it. So the enemy will be like, here's this Jezebel spirit. That's your coworker.
Oh,
Like,
good Lord. And
like,
see, that's the
yes.
crazy thing because I'm on the other side. I can't always see the spirit, but I feel shifts when I walk into rooms or when I go
Mhm.
around people. Have you ever been in a room and the entire atmosphere shifts when a person walks in and you're
Mhm.
just like, what happened? Like, what's on them? And
Mhm.
I have my hairstylist is actually like that. And I had a moment when I was sitting in her chair not too long ago, and she was like, Courtney, you were just heavy today. And I actually
Mhm.
said that to somebody a couple of days ago. Like, you can sense
Mhm.
when somebody's spirit is off because I know her spirit is very light. I know this person. I've been getting to know them for months. And so I'm like used to a certain level of like, she's usually like bubbly and happy, and she's just quiet and calm, and there's a heaviness on you. And so you start engaging, and that's where my gift comes in because I start engaging and I'm like, okay, do I need to pray for this person? Like, what's going on? Do you want to talk about it? And then I'm just like, you have a spirit of heaviness on you. You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to. I just want to let you know, like, I can feel it. And that took me by surprise because it's been happening for a couple of years, but I didn't know what to call it or what the name was. And my mom used to tell me when I was little, she was like, sometimes you say things and it's just like, that girl been here before. But I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I haven't. But it's like the gifts show up early. So even, when people are new to the faith and they're like, everything's demonic, you're actually a lot more sensitive. And when that veil is fresh off your eyes, you actually start taking in things because you don't have the confusion and the heartache that a lot of Christians have by going through the middle of their walk. You're still at the
Yeah.
beginning and it's still very, very new. And it's like you get the Holy Spirit and you've got that fresh perspective of right and wrong. And so
Mhm.
you call out what is wrong immediately. And a lot of stuff that people are calling out really actually might be demonic.
Yeah.
But then it starts to come off because now people are like, you're like, okay, let me sit in this a little bit. Like people are like, okay, it's not that. Oh,
Yeah.
this used to drive me crazy. They're like, it's not that deep. Sometimes it really is. And now I'm at the point where like it is that deep. You just don't want to recognize it at this point.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's where you get that lukewarm walk where people in the
Mhm.
middle and they're like, why isn't this happening for me? Why isn't that happening for me? Lord, where are you? And I'm like, because every other day you pick him up and you drop him off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to watch that kind of shift. Like you said, people get to that middle ground,
Mm-hmm.
and I see it as they get comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I have my habits. I go to church. I pray. Like, they
Yeah.
just get comfortable and they don't stay vigilant. And that's something even in this season I'm doing, because a lot of times, like, if I pray for something, God blesses me with it. I do my best to steward it well, and I don't pray about it anymore, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that it's subject to spiritual attacks.
Yes.
So just because you got it, don't sleep now, because you still need to be vigilant and understanding that there is still spiritual warfare going on, even more after you're blessed.
Yeah.
When you do what God tells you to do, when you get married, anything that God honors, the enemy is like, I'm about to come in there and wreck shop, because
Exactly.
he knows. So we kind of relax when we get it. We're like, oh, thank you. You blessed me with that new house. And then the enemy's like, oh, her guard is down.
Mm-hmm.
Let me step in there. Let me add some fear to that. And I was going to say that too about the demonic thing. A lot of stuff is spiritual. I think it gets dangerous when you live in fear because of that.
Yeah.
So that's the newbie part of it, is that you're labeling this stuff as demonic, but you're living in fear. Like,
Mhm.
you're gonna get to the point where you can't leave your house,
Yeah.
like, because you're saying that. So it's what you do with that information, right? Like, if you let it turn you into someone that is afraid of certain things because you feel like that like you can know it exists and not be scared of it. I'm not scared of the devil. I don't play with him. I don't like him, but I'm not scared of him, right? Because God calls me to not have fear.
Absolutely.
And to be courageous. So if I understand that these entities are having this war, I'm also going in understanding that I am armored up and I am prepared for that war. And whatever it takes, okay, that's what it takes, right? But when you learn about it and you get that shock factor, and then you're like, don't watch that. Like, it's like, wait a minute, girl. You got to be able to be in the world and still keep yourself intact. Because I like the saying when people say, Jesus hung out with sinners, but he didn't sin with them.
Yeah.
So he didn't go lock himself in the house and say, ooh, all this stuff is demonic, right? He would go out and cast demons out. He would go out and heal people. So I just don't like the fear that makes you isolate because of that. Yeah. And then it kind of festers into self-righteousness because you're like, I don't do that. But see, they do that. Those Christians do that. But I know that that's demonic and I don't do it. But it's like, maybe that Christian is a little bit more bold. Maybe that Christian is willing to evangelize in those spaces. So they're not afraid to go in them spaces. Maybe they're doing something that is actually according to their calling. And it's not that they're trying to participate in the demonic too, but they're actually there as a light, there to change a situation. But if you're afraid, then you can't do anything about it. You can't cast a demon out that you're afraid of. Like you have so much power, and God.
Fear is an open door to the enemy. So I mean, like there's a woman that I saw on the Can We Talk podcast, or We Need to Talk. I can't remember which one it's called, but she said, why would I fear the created over fearing the creator? And it's kind of like, if you're fearing the enemy, it's because you lack fear of God and understanding of who he is. Yes. And that set with me, like when she said that, I had to like sit back and like mull that over, because I'm like, she's absolutely right. They cannot touch you without God saying so. When you read the book of Job, Satan had to go to the Lord, and he was like, you have a force field around him. I can't even get to him. And so God was like, okay, because God was like, have you tried my servant Job? God recommended Job and then told Satan, go ahead and try your worst. Just don't kill him. So he still has to appeal to God to do anything here on earth. He does not have enough authority to do anything to a child of God. You belong to God. Once you accept salvation, you belong to God. So he still has to go to God because you haven't given yourself over to the devil.
Right.
And he has to get permission to do anything. And the thing about God is so good and so gracious to us that even if he allows the enemy to try something, God will reinforce his child so that you don't fall too far, that you won't come back.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, like, we blame it on God. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? But we don't see the lesson in it. We don't see the blessing in it. We don't even try to think like Christ, like, what could God be doing in this moment? What could God be trying to teach me? And that's something that I always have to like just reshift my mind about and change my perspective about, because we can be so quick to go into the woe is me, but we don't actually ask God, like, what should I be learning and gleaning from this situation? And I had to check myself on that, because there's so much that's happened to me in like the last couple of years that is unfavorable. But if I had stopped and said, the enemy is doing this, the enemy is doing that, I'm just going to lean into this, like my life is falling apart and all that stuff, I wouldn't be here. Getting here took asking God, how do I get through this? I need your help. It took calling on God and acknowledging him in everything and saying, you allow things, but you do things for my good. So what am I supposed to learn here? Because I'm not learning it. And I am frustrated. Like, don't get me wrong. I told God, I am frustrated in this season. I don't like this season. I'm very uncomfortable. But in my discomfort, I know that there is growth.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the honesty in that too, because going back to the book of Job, I had always heard the story growing up, but had never read the book of Job myself. And then when I got older and I read it, I was like, oh, it's Job. Good. Yeah, I was like, he was talking crazy to God though, a little bit. Like, not too much, Job. Not too much.
But I always say, like, when God came down at the end of the book of Job to answer his question directly, God was like, say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
That's so good. But to your point, and even in other books of the Bible, other authors have done this too, where they're actually admitting their shortcomings. They're like, "Hey, I actually hate this. Like, I don't like this." At one point, he's even like, "Why don't you just kill me?" And
Right.
we don't come to God with that level of radical honesty. And because we don't, he can't really see us through things, because we come to God like, "Dear God, bless my mommy, bless my dad." He's like, "Okay, but you're really frustrated with this and you ain't gonna say it. So how can like, I'm literally telling you in scripture that you can ask for wisdom."
Yeah.
And instead of you coming to me with that honesty and being like, "Hey God, I don't like this. What should I do?" You're coming to me like a victim, and you're coming to me maybe dishonest and just being like, "I just want to thank you. I want to thank you, God." And
Yeah.
it's like, hey,
That false gratitude. He
yeah,
didn't need any more of that.
anyway. He already knows. He already
Mhm.
knows anyway. So it's just such a waste of you hiding that when you could just be radically honest. And I think also I always say that people apply the authority of their real parents to God.
Yeah.
They're like, this is how my parent is. This is how they flex their authority. When a lot of times parents have power struggles with you, and
Mhm.
it's not authority, right? When you're a teenager, parents having a power struggle with you, clean your room. But God is not going to have a power struggle with you. That is a real authority. And he also is not expecting you to come to him like you would your parent, right? How do you come to your parent? "Oh, I didn't do that." Or, I don't want to get in trouble. Or, I don't no, like, he doesn't want you to come with that same energy, because he's like, "I'm your father in heaven. I'm not like those other people that you're comparing me to, that what you labeled in your head as authority." So I think that's why people come to God in prayer, not like, "God, you are a parent. You are my father in heaven, and you are God. You're
Mhm.
not a human. You're not going to make false promises to me. You're not going to fall short in anything that you do." It's like you have to take those human characteristics off of God, because you're only coming to God in a certain way just because you're applying a characteristic to him that applies to your mom. Or
Yeah.
whenever you used to ask for something, your dad used to be like, "We ain't got it. We ain't got no money."
Mhm.
Like, and then when you go to God, you're like, "God, can you do this for me? I'm struggling. I don't like that. I'm poor." In your head, the response that you're hearing is, "I ain't got it." And
Yeah.
God has you. Like, and
I
like,
think that people are afraid of God saying no. They're afraid of being rejected by God. There's somebody that I was friends with that once said, I asked him, I was like, "Have you prayed to God about this thing?" He goes, "No, why would I go to God about something like this?" And I'm like, this is exactly what God wants you to come to him about. But I feel like it's the fear or the shame or the embarrassment if you feel like God said no because he didn't fix it.
yeah,
When if he doesn't fix it, think about what might happen if you actually go through it and allow God to lead you through it on the other
Mhm.
side, but you can't even get to that point because you won't ask him. And
Okay,
so I
thank
completely get what you're saying. When you have a mom or a dad that's like a no, 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 no
you. Mhm.
person, then you look at God as the same kind of authority as your parent, and you just expect God to be like, no, 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 no. And so then they're like, oh, when I don't ask God for stuff, things go well.
Yeah.
I can just do stuff. And no,
Mhm.
things might be looking like they're going well, but you're operating in your own strength because you haven't asked God to come in and help you. And the thing about it is, things might be going good, but things could be going better. The enemy can give you things that look good, that are going good, but God can always give you things that are 10 times better.
Mhm. And God's no is a yes,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause it's like how you look at it. And I talk about this a lot because, especially for women, I'm a woman, so I'll just speak for women. When God tells us to do something and he says, yes, we are so excited. We're like, "God
Mhm.
told me to do this." When God tells us, "No, don't do that," or when God stops something or tells you to stop doing something, you take it so bad. You're like, "Oh my
Or you
God."
start getting calculating. I've been
And
calculating when he says no, like, let me do a different variation.
let me just, okay, God, how about this? It's like,
Mhm.
no. And I realized, because there was an organization I was a part of and I was going to step down from it. When I got invited to the organization, everybody was like, "Congratulations. You're so they nominated you for this, right?" And
Mhm.
then when I went to God, God didn't want me to do it. And then when I said, hey, I feel like this is not for me, even other people were like, you sure? And I'm like, I'm as certain when God tells me not to do something as I am when God tells me to do it. I'm
Yeah.
actually a little scared. If he say no, I'm not going in that room no more. Like, period. And it was hard for other people to understand. But like I said, in that same token, if it was something that God told me to do, they would be like, yeah, girl, we believing in miracles for you. But then when I say, God told me not to do this, they're like, are you sure? This could be a good opportunity. You know, if they bring all their stuff in it. And I'm like, no, you need to be as obedient when God says no and understand that it still means something good as when God says yes, the way you say that means something good, right? Because even
Yeah.
if God says yes to something, you could still go through challenges. Like you said, maybe he wants you to get to the other side of it. So yes is not good and easy, and no is not hard and bad,
Yeah.
right? It's like the association that we're making it mean is where we're not in alignment with God, because
Yeah.
God didn't say that the no was bad. He's trying to help you. So it's
Yeah.
not bad.
You know what trips me out is when one Christian is comfortable in a certain type of sin and then they
Mm,
invite you in, but you have conviction and discomfort. And so you say
mm,
no,
mm-hmm.
and then it becomes, well, I'm doing it and I don't have conviction, so it's not bad. Why can't you do it?
Right,
And then
right.
that trips me out because like that it plays into kind of what you're saying. And I'm just like, I feel like in different stages at different levels of your faith, conviction comes in differently at different times. It looks different, it feels different
Yeah.
for everybody. And leaning into your relationship with God, he may be convicting you now because you've already surpassed a point and should know better, whereas they haven't
Yes.
gotten to that point yet and they haven't had that lesson, but they're going to go through that lesson. And it's not always for you to tell them
Mm-hmm.
that the lesson is coming. They need
Yes.
to go through it. And
Yes.
so I've been through this. I've done this. I've been like, it's so funny because I've been on both sides where I'm like, it's literally not that bad, but I was still in that, what's it called? They use it in the legal system to like weigh. You see the attorney with the
Oh,
scale.
the
It's a
scales.
scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went through this on the side where I was like, oh, it's not that bad. Like I was still measuring sin by the scale, this invisible
Mhm.
scale that I made because it is not here in the Bible. Whereas somebody who had already learned and been through and been further on their walk than me, they were like, nah, I can't do that. Like that's not they didn't go through the whole, that's not biblical, that's not Christian, that's not, they're just like, that's not something I'm called to do
I
right now in my life. And I hear people say that all the time. At this season in my life, I can't do that right now. And I'm like, you know what? I respect that because I don't know what season you're in, but it's so crazy to me that tug of war that people and other Christians specifically will put you through because
mhm.
they want you to join what they're doing, even though God didn't tell you to do it.
That's yoga in California. You just wrapped up a TED talk about yoga and telling someone, no, you're not going to go to yoga. It's exactly how it plays out. It is like, girl, it's like, come on. I have conviction about this. You don't know me. You don't know my story. You don't know what God is doing for
Just
me.
had this conversation. This is hilarious.
Like, come on. And what I love about what you said is the mindset that it's not your job to tell the other person or try to make them feel condemned about it if it's
Mhm.
your personal conviction. And I think that's where the body has a lot of work to do, because it turns people away that are on their journey when
Yeah.
you tell them, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that. Don't you feel convicted? And maybe that's not at the stage that they're at. Maybe God wants them to take another step closer
Mhm.
in a different way. Maybe God wants them to take down different idols first and then handle that. You don't know. You don't know what God is going to take them through. So I used to be like that. Like as soon as I went through something and I came out to the other side, I felt like it was my job to tell everyone else and coach them and mentor them on why they shouldn't do it and why they should do it the right way. And it's like, words don't teach,
Yeah.
experiences do. So
Yes.
it is not for me to go and tell someone and rank them on this, like, you're not where I'm at and you need to get like me. Because
Exactly.
that's not
Sometimes that
it.
lesson is the lesson they need to actually build their faith to come to where you are. And if you are trying to detract them from even going through the lesson, you might end up making them backpedal. I feel like sometimes as Christians, we think that we want to be a part of somebody's salvation.
Oh, yes.
And I heard it this way. Sometimes it's your job to just plant the seed. Sometimes it's your job to just water the seed in another season. But sometimes you don't even get to see like which part you were a part of.
Yeah.
You just one day see the harvest and you're like, thank God they got there. That should be the goal. It's just to make sure that they get there. You don't have to you can't save anybody. And I feel like a lot of Christians have a salvation complex. Like, I'm going to throw the Bible at you and preach at you until you get saved. That actually does more harm than good in the long run, because what they're going to see is the moment that you fall, now everything you said is flawed.
Oh, yes, that's a good point.
And so then you end up making them go backwards. And so I feel like we have to have, just as we wanted grace, we didn't want anybody hitting us over the head with the Bible. You have to give that same grace and extend it to everybody else, no matter where they are in the walk, because the goal is the harvest. The goal is the same for all of us. We need harvest. We need growth. We need roots, and we need to sprout up, and we need to grow wheat. And my thing is if you don't even allow people and know how to support them on that journey, then get away from them.
Oh, yes. That's codependence.
Yeah.
It's codependence dressed up as help, because you're playing God. You are too in their business on the outcome. And it's also not believing in God and not believing that God has their back, like God has your back. So why do you think God has your back and then you got to have this other person's back, instead of we're both children of God and he has both of us? And I noticed when I was doing that too, like I wasn't giving the person credit, right? Like, you're turning the person into a victim. What about giving them credit? Like, they will come to the other side of this. They're smart. They're determined.
They're asking questions. They're
asking questions. Like, what about just giving them credit for that and then having faith that, oh, their trajectory is going to be good? Because when you start to get in it, what you're saying is, I don't think they can do this. And that's not fair to them. Like, it's not fair to God for you to say, okay, I don't think God can do this for them, but it's really not giving them enough credit either, because people they know how to make choices. They have to make the choices. God is not going to make the choice for them. And you have to trust that when God puts those options in front of them and as he refines them, they will start to make the right choices. And that is where your trust is at. It's like, okay, I know they're going to go through the refinement process. I am believing in God that he is going to restore them to how he intended for them to be. And that is enough for me. And I'm not getting into whether I think they can do it or not, whether they should stop doing certain things, because now I'm playing God. And now I'm doing that because I really want to feed my own ego. Yeah. Because why else would you care about where somebody else is at in their path? And to your point, I've never heard anybody say this. So, like, rewind this and play it again. The part that you said, he was like, oh, okay, this is going to push them away further. And then when you make a mistake because you made yourself the focus, they're going to be like, see, you wanted me to be a Christian. Look at you. You just cursed. Or like, whatever you do, whenever you do a human thing or make a flaw or anything, they're going to be like,
Yeah, because when you start doing God's job, you put yourself on God's level, and God is perfect. Ooh. And so the moment you make a mistake, you now put a blemish on God in their eyes, because you're basically presenting yourself as though you're on the same level as him. And so now you distort their view of who God actually is, because they can't see him through you. Yeah. And all you are is covered in dust and sin. You mentioned the refining process, and I immediately had like a visual of when you're going through a refining process and you're heating the metal. If something that's already been refined to a certain point touches something that is just starting the process and they fuse together, now the whole thing is dirty. Oh. And so that's a great example of what we're saying. Like, you have to separate to a certain extent yourself from those who are still walking, but walk with them, but next to them. It's like, I feel like you're trying to pick them up and put them over your shoulder. And
or drag them.
Like, exactly. And I'm like, that does more harm than good, because everything that God gives us is based on the choices that we make. Our
Mhm.
salvation is a choice, how we walk, how often we get delayed. It's all based on the choices that we make as individuals. Your salvation, salvation is not contingent on your actions, and vice
Yeah.
versa. I don't have a buy one, get one, go to heaven coupon where I can just bring you along with me.
Yeah.
So why would I hinder your walk when I know how hard it was for me to get here and what I had to go through? There's a such thing as wise counsel. That the Bible tells us that we need to have wise counsel. Be that and nothing more. I have wise counsel in my life, and she will listen, and she will listen, and then she will call out. But she calls it out to the point where she was like, I think you need to take that back to God, because that
Mm.
doesn't sound right. I think
Mhm.
you need to sit and mull that over and rethink the circumstances that you're in. And,
Mhm.
or they'll give an example. I've moved through this already. You're
Yeah.
on the right track. You're doing very well. Keep going. Don't lose courage in this moment. And that's what people need. They don't need you standing on top of them. And the reason why I'm like getting real passionate about this is because I was that person standing on top of people.
Yeah.
And I did this last year to somebody and had to
Mhm.
say, I can't debate with you. I'm sitting here praying to the Holy Spirit. What do I say next? What do I say next? The Holy Spirit says, stop talking. And I'm like, okay, how do I get out of this? Dignify with dignity. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can't have this conversation with you anymore. We're just going to have to pause it here. And
Yeah.
then the person was like, ha, I won. You backed off. Let them think that they won.
Yeah.
Allow it. Allow
Mhm.
people to think that you were wrong and they were right. But
Mhm.
watch what God does when he turns that situation around.
Right. And be okay with you not getting
Yeah,
the credit. Be okay with
absolutely.
it wasn't due to you or something that you did, because a lot of times we want, when the person does come to that truth, we want them to come back and be like, you told me and I should have
Hmm.
listened to you 6 months ago. It's like let them
Yeah.
just have their moment and let them go through their change without them. They don't have to acknowledge that you were right, or they don't have
Hmm.
to like make you feel good. Like, do you want to just have peace, or do you want to be right and be validated and all those things, which are not good? They're fleshly. So
Yeah.
when people do go through that change, and to your point too, this happens a lot on social media. I don't argue with people at all. I don't
Yeah.
try to convince them. One thing that I do is I leave them kind of confused, because it's like they tried to argue and I'll be like, I see why you would think that way. I'm not in agreement with you, but I understand.
Hmm.
And sometimes people just don't want you to argue with their experience. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to tell them that they didn't get church hurt. Who are you? You're
Hmm.
not going to change their experience about that. They have a core belief that has developed from that thought. So it's just better for you to show compassion sometimes, because if
Yes.
you hear the backstory, that person may have went through something that caused them to think that way, and God has to bring them through it. So I'm always like, I understand why you would feel that way. That makes sense,
Yeah.
because at least I'm not on the same page with you as the beliefs, but I'm showing you compassion, because if I were in your shoes, I probably would feel the same way. And
Absolutely.
it's not like I'm trying to make you feel like I feel. It's just like, okay, I can hold that space for you. And it's uncomfortable, but because I want you to believe what I believe. Trust me. I want to bring you along as fast as I can. But if you're not there, I'm just like, all right, I understand why you feel that way. I'll say, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that that internal need that people feel for like to be told, "Oh, you were right," or that feeling of validation, that's a foothold. That's pride.
Oh,
And
yep.
God despises pride, and it separates you from him. And the thing about it is, as Christians, we are supposed to be more like Christ, and Christ was just full of compassion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that should show you what your heart posture is, and that you still have things to work on. If you're waiting
Yep.
for them 10 years down the line to be like, you told me, and you can be like, oh, yeah, I'm validated. Like
Mhm.
that's a problem within your own heart that you need to work on, which should
Yeah.
tell you that you shouldn't even be judging them, because you still have a problem that you need to work
Amen.
through. And so I feel like for me, especially within my walk, a lot of what God has been doing, and I keep saying this, like in this season, God has been teaching me compassion. And it is easier. I hate saying this. It's easier to be mean than it is to be nice. Being mean comes so easy to me that I actually have to turn my brain off and be nice to people at times, because like I can pop off at the mouth if you want me to, but I've decided that's not the person that God called me to be, so I'm not going to do that. And so it's like I can't believe I just said that. But
Hey,
by this I'm being honest, but by the same token, it's just like I realized that the judgment that I didn't want to get from other people and the compassion that I was looking for in other people were the two things that I had mixed up. I was judging very, very quickly for a very long time. And now it's like, okay, being compassionate for me means me being quiet, actually, more often than not. I'm not going to correct you all the time. I'm not going to put in my 2 cents every 5 seconds. I'm not going to give you a scripture every 2 seconds. Watching one of Tiffany Montgomery's videos, she was like, no, you need to go do the work yourself. I'm not going to keep telling you where it is in the Bible. I want you to go figure it out for yourself. Maybe this will be the catalyst that you need to get you in your Bible and actually reading it, and you'll actually learn something and move through something and forgive something and get closer to God in that moment. And so I find that I need to take that mentality as I go. I can't save you. I can't tell you everything. I'm still learning what's in the Bible. I can't tell you everything that's in the Bible. So I have to just be the encourager. I have to be the one that's comfort and quiet, that allows you to move through whatever it is that God has put you through and allowed you to go through in this season. And even in my discomfort with where you are, I got to let you be.
Yeah.
And it's hard when it's people that you love, like siblings, children, family members, friends. I think those are the hardest ones to not go after. But oftentimes, it's beautiful that you get to meet them on the other side of their salvation, but you may actually have nothing to do with their salvation because they're too close to you. It's like how Jesus had to leave Nazareth and he couldn't do very much there. It's because I get that I knew you when. I knew you when you were 14. I knew you when you did this. I knew you when you were 20 in the club. I knew you da. So they can't actually accept where you are now because they're too comfortable with where you used to be, because that's where they still are.
Yeah, that's my pet peeve though. It's like, don't act like you didn't see this change.
They can see it, but they don't want to accept it. They're waiting for the other
it.
shoe to drop and be like, oh, there she is. She's back in the club. What you doing here?
Yeah, it's odd to me, but something you said struck a chord with me when you said it's easier to be mean. And in my mind, I don't call it mean, but it's easier for me to have a lot of cynicism or be hypercritical. Like, and I had to channel that into something else because I'm like, you can instantly look at something and see what's wrong. And you can instantly, and it's very easy for you to do that and see everything wrong about a person, a situation, an idea. And I was like, you know what? I should just start doing business audits in my business. Just take this over here. Because it's okay for me to go through your sales funnel and tell you what's wrong, but it's not okay for me to tear you apart like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just channel it because I did see that. I felt like it was a gift. Like, I'm like, I pay attention to detail. I used to work in law. That was a skill that they were looking for. And people, a lot of times, even like, because I work in marketing, like my sister will be like, hey, look at this YouTube video. Tell me, like, critique it for me. And people are open to that. But I was giving it to people that didn't ask. It's like, they didn't ask you for that.
That part, I've done that too many times. I can stop that.
Ask you to critique it. They didn't ask you what you thought. They didn't ask how it could be better. They just were telling you. And then now you're sitting here like, you know what? Move that a little bit to the left because it looks crooked. And like, it's like, I just was showing you, like, why are you hyper focused on all of the flaws? Why are you hypercritical? Why can you meet someone in 5 minutes and tell someone everything that's wrong with them and everything they need to fix? And I was like, okay, that doesn't apply to this, but there probably is somewhere where it does apply, where that is helpful, where people are seeking that. Go use it over there. Leave them folks alone. Go use it over there because you're discerning things and picking things up and you're telling people things that they never asked you for. They didn't ask you for advice. They didn't ask you for your input. They didn't ask you what you thought about it. They shared it with you. And then you say, well, you know what? I used to work in such and such and I know you shouldn't do it. Like, it's like,
I'm a very solution oriented person, so I completely understand. And it's so funny that for me, I actually said this. I have this thing. I have a rule. Don't come to me with a problem if you don't have a solution to fix it, because I've always been that person that's like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And so now I'm like, okay, if I can help you find a solution, if you ask, I will give you a solution. But I prefer, if you tell me that something's wrong, give me a solution. Don't just pick it apart. Cause you know how like they'll be like, look, that outfit looks bad. Okay, then tell me what looks good with this. What color goes with my skin tone? Like work with me here. You don't just tell me it looks bad. And so I find that like so many people get off, like they get put off by that. It's just like, okay, well, how do you want me to respond? There's a book that I was reading. It's called Never Split the Difference. And he was like, one of the biggest negotiation tactics that they have is they do and they say things because they're waiting for that explosive reaction because they feed off of that. And he said, if you ask them a rational question, how would you like me to respond? Like what outcome are you looking for here? It takes them back and it makes them think, because then they realize, what do I want here? Like I'm not going to be like, I want you to yell at me. I want you to hit me.
I can trigger you.
Exactly. I'm trying to throw you off your, no. And so, that's a way to kind of dissolve the resistance that you get from people. And so for me, it really did. I didn't have to think, I could just speak. And that's why I was so good at being mean. It's because I didn't have to, I did not consider you, your emotions, your feelings, or anything, because I did not care.
Yeah.
And not caring, now I'm sitting here like, okay, and having compassion. I would love to tell you the truth, but can you handle the truth in this moment?
That's interesting.
And it's just like, what is the ripple effect? Courtney, what is telling them that color looks horrible on them going to actually do for them? Because it's not like they can go home and change.
Yeah.
It's like now you consider the outcome rather than like just the complaint.
Love that. That's so good. And it's such a good point too, because you're thinking about the outcome. And as you were talking, I was like, oh, so what she's describing, that meanness, is like the narcissist Jezebel spirit. And then the opposite of that is compassion. And I think in society, that what's happening right now in the world is there is a ton of apathy and indifference. And those two things ruin relationships, ruin everything, because everybody's getting to where you said you were. I don't care. Nobody cares. Who's going to care?
I swear, if somebody else says, if you like it, I love it, I'm stop.
Can we care? Like the apathy and the like overall, like, hey, I don't care. It's like, it's so, I feel like because the world has so much stuff going on, so much coming at us. And I think it's like a defense mechanism for us to be like, I can't care about other people's feelings right now. I'm where I'm at right now. I can't care, but you can. And I'm happy that you said that, because the opposite of compassion is being mean. And when I'm talking to someone and I hear that in them, I'm like, they have zero compassion.
Yeah. But it's also fear of the fallout that comes from the compassion. I'm from Houston. You'll see somebody in a road rage incident, and it's the person from the other car that tried to defuse the argument that gets shot.
Oh, right.
And so now people are afraid to step in with compassion because they don't want to deal with the repercussions of coming into a hostile situation. And I know that's an extreme one, but these are real-time situations that happen unfortunately, every day in that city and in other cities. And so I feel like the fear of the fallout has led people to saying, I don't care. I'm just going to sit here and videotape it, or I'm just going to sit here and watch and not do anything. But then you have that person as a witness and they're like, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you step in? Why didn't you say anything? You have so much to say now, but you didn't care enough to step into the situation and be bold and say, Lord, cover me. I'm going in. Like, move in this situation, but your baby's going in. I just feel like we have created a culture of just fear mongering and just making people so afraid that they can't even do the right thing. You go to restaurants and you see things happening and nobody wants to get up because nobody wants to get sued. Nobody wants to become a liability. And then you walk into the culture and they're like, well, nobody cares about anybody, so I'm just going to do what I want to do. And nobody sees me and nobody knows. You are seen and you are known. Your brothers and sisters in Christ love you and they care for you. It's just If you want people to help, you need to have a heart of compassion for the other side once they do help. And that's where we're lacking. Compassion against aggression does not work.
Yeah.
Even if you are not a follower of Christ and you're kind of tiptoeing the line, or you're a lukewarm Christian trying to find their way to stronger faith, compassion on one side, compassion on the other side, that's how change happens.
Yeah.
That's how you get help from your brother and your sister. That's how you know you're not walking alone. That's how you get community from strangers.
Yeah.
But if you're walking and you're leading an aggression, compassion can't combat aggression when aggression wants to pound compassion into the ground 24/7. And that's the world that we live in. And it just makes it harder to walk. You see all these Christians and we're out here with joy and smiling. I swear I smiled at this man. So one of my church mothers, she's like a greeter on some Sundays, and I'm sitting there talking to her, and I don't know why. I'm listening to her, but I zeroed in on this guy that was leaving church, and I just smiled at him big as day. His eyes got so big, like, why are you looking at me? And I'm like, I'm sitting here with so much joy and compassion in my heart, not knowing if I'm supposed to speak to him or just smile at him or what. But he looked at me with hostility. I'm like, you just came out of the same service as me. Like, why is this triggering you?
My goodness.
But I mean, that's literally what it's like walking out in the world as a Christian. And so other people who are Christian, who sit here and complain on one hand that nobody's doing anything and you change. You be compassionate. And watch how you change the atmosphere in rooms and shift the character of people that are around you. People cannot continue to be just aggressive and mean around somebody that is so full of joy and happiness and just good tidings all the time. They'll either leave stage left, or they'll start transforming when they're around you.
Absolutely. Or your spirit will bother them and be like, okay,
exactly.
And
and
too
like,
positive.
Exactly. And honestly,
happy.
I've done that. Like when I want to be angry, when I want to just have, like, sometimes you just want, I want to have a bad day today. Like I'm not ready to get over it. I'm not ready to let it go. And then somebody comes in and they're like super happy and I get frustrated. Instead of killing their joy, I'd be like, I can't do that today. I'm not there right now. And I don't want to say something or do something that's like, that hurts you. So I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
Bye. Like,
oh my God, that's so mature.
Today.
That is so mature of you. I don't know anybody that does that. Like, I worked at a company one time and I was always a ball of joy. And I am more of a morning person, which I know everybody's not. So where my cubicle was at, and like, it's like an open desk where everybody walks in, I'd be like, come on. Like everybody, right? And there was this one supervisor. He wasn't my supervisor, but he was a supervisor. He was like, don't talk to me until I have my coffee.
Yes.
Talk to me around 11. And what's interesting about this story is I kept doing it anyways because I'm annoying like that. I'm like, come on, Miguel. Give me a little smile, right? And then eventually he would kind of like snicker and like laugh because I'd be like, I'm not letting up off on you. You have no reason to be upset. You just woke up. Like, and like bothering him with that, and it became a joke. And I really did realize that, like, at first I was making him mad though. Yeah. He's like walk the other way. Like, I'm not in the mood for this. Like, I'm not about to walk past her desk because she's always joyous. And I'm like, in the morning, I'm listening to positive podcasts. I'm listening to gospel music. I get it. And I'm like, everybody's like, ooh, hi. And you're right. But at least you have the spiritual maturity and the wisdom to be like, hey, I shouldn't pull this person down because that they feel that way. Because a lot of people do that. They just get mean. They're like, oh, okay, what are you so happy about? And that is like them being mad about your joy instead of them being like, hey, I don't feel the way you do. I'm not happy. I'm not in this mood right now, but I'm also not going to negatively affect your mood. Yeah. And I can remove myself. That's super big. You're saying so many things I've never heard before. I don't know anybody that won't bring down somebody else's day.
No, it's so funny because the coffee thing, I had a coworker, Kelsey, a couple of years ago, and she would come in. I always used to get to work around 6:30, 6 in the morning because it was quiet. I would leave the lights off and I'd just be at my computer just cranking out. She'd come in about 7:30. And she would look at me and I'd be like, good morning, Kelsey. And she'd be like, no. I'd be like, let's go get your coffee. So we would go, she'd put her stuff down and she'd be like, ugh, just take it down. And I'd be like, okay. So I'd be quiet. We would go to the coffee area, go get her coffee. She would take a sip and I'd get in her face and be like, now.
You ready?
And I used to drive her crazy. And honestly, it kind of made me happy. Happier. I'm not going to lie, because I thought it was funny.
I know.
But I kid you not. This is why I don't energy match with people, though. Because you know how, like, sometimes you're in a situation and people are like, oh, keep playing. I'll match your energy. Right. And I'm like, don't do that. Because what you're actually doing when you're matching is you're bringing yourself down to their level.
You are. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to consider that. If you were up here and you were joy and you were compassion and you were peace and you were patience and you were kindness and you were goodness and you were faithfulness and you were self-control, why would you go to anger? Why would you go to anger? Yeah. Why would you leave everything that God has given you? Because those are fruits of the Spirit. That's a gift from God. Why would you leave what God gave you to go down here and just wallow in the dirt? Why would you go play in mud?
That's good. That's good that you said that too, because to your first point, when you were like, I don't care. That's another form of not caring, because you just literally neglected all of the fruits of the Spirit and say, I don't care about that right now because I'm so angry. I don't care about that right now. And I feel like people have this thing. There's a therapist. I can't remember. I think her name is Raquel. She talks about people having this capacity. Right? Everybody talks about capacity. I don't have capacity. I'm overstimulated. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have capacity. And I'm like, dang, nobody got capacity no more.
Is there room in your cup?
Yeah, nobody has any room in their cup, right? Like everybody's like overwhelmed. So she talks about how it's not that. It's that we are labeling things as other things. We're labeling things as mental health conditions. We're labeling regular things as more than they are, and then we're checking out like, oh, I can't care because I have all these things going on. But it's like, you don't really got nothing going on, babe.
Exactly.
Like
they really want something going on. That's the thing. You want
something going on. And at one point I started even praying, because I kept hearing myself say that. Like, I'd be like, I don't really have capacity for that, and I was trying to hide behind like me trying to follow God's will. That's not what it was. Girl, pray for some capacity, because you got a real little plate. If every 5 days is too full for you to do anything, when God calls you to do something, you working with a saucer. You're like, I got too much on my plate. But it's like, you should be someone that has a bigger plate. Yeah. Because if God is giving you this mission, he is assigning you to care about some of this stuff. He is assigning you to like get in the dirt. Stop saying you don't have no capacity, because the only thing you probably do have capacity for is the things that make you comfortable. And you're saying that you don't have capacity because it's uncomfortable, but you do have capacity. And don't blame that on burnout. Don't blame that on you're pouring from an empty cup. Don't blame that on that, because most of the time that's not what it is. Yeah. Now, if you're really overwhelmed, I don't want to gloss over that. If you're really overwhelmed, you're really burned out, you really don't have capacity, and that is the truth, that's different than everything overwhelming you. Everything is overstimulated. Everything. I mean, and the generations behind us, they're so overstimulated, they don't even want to get on a phone call. I know. I'm teaching my sons how to schedule dentist appointments. What is going on right now? Because everything is like, I need to be able to text. This is overwhelming. Having a phone call is overwhelming. I need to just be able to send. Like, that's not normal. That's not normal for every single thing to overwhelm you so much that you don't have capacity to even work in the spirit of what God is telling you to do. Yeah. Everything burns you out. Everything burns you out. And once something gets consistent, here you come back talking about you ain't got no capacity no more. Here you come. You coming, right? You coming with this capacity thing, like, or overstimulated.
No, there's this song that is playing in my head right now. It's Jonathan McReynolds, and it's "I Will Make Room for You." He said, "I will make." I'm not going to sing. I will make room for you. I will prepare for two, so you don't have to feel like you can't be here. Please live in me. And I'm just like, what is this? It's "I Will Make." I swear, I'm about to make a refined conversations not podcast playlist, because I'm like, the amount of songs that we talk about and recommend on here, they're so good. But it's called "I Will Make Room for You." Oh, it's called "Make Room." Make Room. That's what it's called. Okay. And it's the whole CD. I'm so old. The whole thing is just so good. But that song, literally, when you were talking about that and having capacity, I talked about this in the previous episode, and how like so many people are like, oh, is the glass half empty or is it half full? Because if it's half empty, like you have room to grow. If it's half full, then it's like you're running out of room. But I'm like, we serve a God of overflow. So
Exactly.
when he
Exactly.
calls you to something and it's something that you need to do in this season of your life, you will have
Mhm.
capacity because he will make room
He
and he
will.
will overflow you and you will have more than you actually need. And so
Mhm.
my thing is it laziness or is it capacity?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like those excuses are interchangeable. Are you overstimulated or are you holding things that you shouldn't be holding, that you just
Mm.
don't want to let go of? In this season, God has really taught me that open palms and this posture is how we're supposed to be, because he is here to give you things and take things away. It's a constant rotation as you grow. What went with you in this season cannot go in the next. So if you hold to anything too tight, yes, you're going to be overstimulated and feel overworked and overwhelmed and everything because you haven't made room. Your arms are not open for him to take out what no longer belongs to you in this season. And so really judge and look at yourself honestly and say, am I at capacity or am I holding on to too much because I was supposed to let something go? We have
Oh,
so many excuses that allow us to keep bad behaviors that keep us in sin that God has already called us out of.
oh,
If he is
yes.
calling you to something else, he has already made room for you and you absolutely have capacity. I said, people always say, is the glass half full, is the glass half empty? My motto, and it's right here, I'm looking at it, is to shatter the glass and allow God to piece it back together. Because once you have that new glass, he's going to make you a bigger glass, a shinier glass, a glass with a little bit of a curve, so that
Mm.
you can even compartmentalize things when you need to, so that you can
Yeah.
move around different. And I just feel like it's really a mentality shift that needs to be
Mhm.
taught further for people to really understand, so that they can look at their lives and understand that what the world is calling it is not true to what it actually is. You have the capacity, you just also have disobedience somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna blame the soft life girlies for this one. They're gonna catch a stray on this one because they started this. They
Yeah.
definitely started this. And I understand where the movement of having a soft life came from, because we are burnt out. Yes.
Hmm.
A lot of people are really genuinely physically burned out. However, it went to the other extreme. And now things everything seems like it's going to burn you out, or that you shouldn't have to do that. And it's like, when did soft life equal no responsibility, no impact, no work that has to be done, and it's just a vision of you being pampered, and if you're
Yeah.
not being pampered and relaxing and having a massage every single day, you don't got the capacity.
Yeah.
Like, it's the soft life girlies, because that is a new concept. Because as millennials, like I'm 39, as millennials, it was always put in the work.
Hmm.
Like, it was always like put in the work. And then people got burned out, understandably, and partially by what you're saying, because they picked up stuff that wasn't theirs. And then it went to the opposite extreme of, you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to
Hmm.
talk about that. You shouldn't have to worry about that. You shouldn't have to do that. But it's like, what do you mean shouldn't? Like, what do you mean shouldn't? Who is making this rule, like, about what should and shouldn't be done?
Yeah.
Because when you do get blessed and God puts more things in your dominion, you will have to make room for it, and you will have to adjust some things, and there are things that you think that you're not supposed to do that you will do.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you will do it. Like, even in business, like, I always have business examples, because the soft life girlies are telling the business owners, charge a lot, don't work a lot, you can work in 4 hours and become a millionaire. So people don't think that they have to go talk to people in person anymore.
Yeah.
They don't
But
feel
that's
like
why they build to a certain point and why you think you have such a small capacity, because you only have
right.
4 hours to do that much.
Like, the jokes are writing themselves
Yeah.
at this point, because what? Like, you're giving yourself small capacity and
Yeah.
then saying everything else is outside of it. I'm getting passionate about this is because I was someone that got overstimulated a lot. And I started labeling myself as having social anxiety or being an introvert. And I do still think I'm an introvert because I do need to like recharge my battery from time to time. But because I leaned into that no capacity thing, I missed so many opportunities that God put in front of me, because I would look at my calendar and be fearing it, like, oh, this is too much. And God's like, I'm sending you opportunities, and you're pretending like you don't even have a saucer anymore. You got a baby jar. Like, you, like, I'm sending you this stuff. And I thought, which is very arrogant, I thought that I actually had the right to turn those things down. That's very ignorant. If God sends you something without you even consulting with God, you say you don't have no capacity? Who do you think you are? You need to go check. You need to go ask. So what changed that for me is the only thing I knew to do was to pray for capacity. I'm like, God, in this season, give me more capacity then, because then I won't have that excuse to lean on anymore. And what God would do is he would give me endurance. So I would do things and not get tired. I would
that part.
The Holy Spirit would literally light up in me and be like, and it's interesting because even when I was doing a lot in ministry, a lot at home, had a lot going on, I never got tired. And that joy that you're talking about, like, it was all over me. And people were like, how are you not tired? Like, what? I'm like, this is the Holy Spirit, because when he calls me to it, he makes sure I have enough energy, enough everything. It was almost it was a little eerie for me, because I'm like, am I supposed to be this busy but feeling this relaxed? This is what we call peace beyond my understanding, because I am not understanding how this is peaceful. And it's because of that prayer. I was like, oh, God, grant me more capacity if that's your will for me. Grant me some endurance for this season if that's your will for me. Grant me some energy, because I went through a lot of seasons. The baby wasn't sleeping through the night. Like, there were seasons where I was really tired, and God was like, I'll be your energy drink. Don't worry. It's not a big deal.
I love everything you just said. And it's so funny that you were talking about the soft life, because I have realized that I don't fit the mold for that. And it's so funny because you either have like the Bible girlies or you have the soft life girlies. And I'm like, the Proverbs 31 woman did not have that soft life. And I'm like, but if I'm being that soft and I'm expecting all these things from him, are you nurturing? Are you cooking? Are you clean? Are you taking care of the home? Are you taking care of the children? I'm not about to say like, what are you bringing to the table? But I'm just like, what are you doing? What is your purpose other than just being soft? Because
what are you bringing to the table? And I hate when people make me agree with the men's.
But honestly, it's like, it feels like you're cutting corners, because now I can't be ambitious. Now I can't. I love what I do. Yeah. I love working more than 4 hours. I've been doing this, like, I've been working since 9 this morning. We're later in the day here, and I'm just like, I'm on fire. I am fully just ready to stay here and then even edit when I'm done. And I get that I'm not married and I have that ability to do it. But even if I was married, I would find the time to be able to do it, to finish the work that I did. You just like, it's just the ebbs and flows of life. But you're sitting here telling me the soft life is where it's at, and I need to have somebody taking me on yachts and flying me to places and wearing this kind of makeup and wearing these. What does that do for me? How does that feed my purpose? I'm realizing the more I listen to like these little tagline kind of things that women throw out, the more I realize like that it's very, very worldly. Yeah. It's giving worldly.
Yeah, it is. No,
and
right.
I can't even aspire to that because it's still too low. Just, I don't fit the mold, and I'm okay with that. And I feel like a lot of Christian women and men, when you see these trends and these different taglines coming, understand that you're not meant to fit because it wasn't made for you. Yeah. And so, yeah, I find those things kind of irritating, because like at first, I kid you not, I've done boss babe, I've been independent woman, I've been the hustler, I've been all these things. I wanted to do soft life. It looks nice. Don't get me wrong. It looks fun. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I'm doing that, then I can't be doing this. Yeah. And I was like, and God has given me the endurance to do this to the point where like, I'm not tired of it. I love it. I actually feed off of this. I get fed from this, but that means that I don't get to stop when everybody else stops. I still have work to do, but I have endurance to keep me chugging along. And if I need to stop, I can have rest. If you're telling me that I have to compartmentalize and be a specific way because I deserve this life as a woman, I have to tell you that you're wrong, because
Yeah.
you're canceling out what God has called you to do and the purpose that he wants you to have. I can be an elegant woman. I can be a driven woman, but I can be an elegant woman at the same time. There's a woman that I love to watch online. I absolutely love Amanda Ferguson because she talks about the biblical woman, but then she talks about how one of the things that stands out the most to me is she is now the type of woman, when she's invited into a room, she does not speak unless somebody asks her a question, because it's not her job to command every space that she enters. Sometimes you're just there to listen. That is such a mature and elegant and just regal way to behave as a woman. And so instead of having a soft life where you're putting me on yachts, because the thing about it is you have these women that are doing these trends and these fads, and these men that are doing these trends and these fads, and they are not gentlemen and they are not ladies. They do not even know how to hold space or be themselves, an elevated version of themselves in these spaces, which is why you have all these conversations about why are women twerking at brunch. You're not taking the time to elevate, to see who God called you to be. I want to see who God called me to be. I want to work within the purpose that he gave me. I want to become that person. And that person does so much more than anybody who is compartmentalized is doing. Don't limit yourself at all by any means, because that's not what God called you to be.
Yeah. And what's sad about that is I personally believe that the soft life is a lie, because let's say one huge person that has a huge platform, she's saying live the soft life, but she's not saying is that she has a hair company, she has sponsorships, she has deliverables that she has to do every day. Her life is not
So
soft.
then that's deceiving. So now you're just sitting here lying.
Everybody that's saying the soft life, they're working really hard, you know, because behind the scenes, let's say even if you were just doing it to have a man do something for you, that's a lot of work to like have that as an intention and then try to go out and do that. So is your life really soft?
Yeah.
You spend all your day online looking for a millionaire. That sounds terrible.
It really does. Not like nothing wrong with having a millionaire for a husband or a wife, but at the same time, can you steward that type of relationship, that type of person?
Yeah, true. That too.
Because or are you just going to be the person that's on their arm that has to be quiet in every conversation?
You
But
opened up a can of worms and I was about to go there. No, I actually opened that can of worms, so.
no, you're good. But no, I like just it goes back and it kind of rounds out a lot of the things that we have talked about, which kind of seems to be a trend on a lot of the episodes that I'm doing. It's very much when you're in the middle. There's so many highs, there's lows, there's so many transitions and different things that you go through, mindset shifts, perspectives, all these different things. And the relationships change, your posture changes. There's so many shifts that it almost seems like, you know, you can't really get comfortable like ever when you're walking with God, because he's like, okay, you got this, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. So going back to the very beginning and what we were talking about and what the question was, which was, how have you considered God before self when the pivot is alignment rather than a choice? It's less of self and more of God is what ultimately I feel like we've been talking about. That's how you pivot. You take what God has for you and he will give you the endurance, the capacity, the time, the rest, everything that you need to do that thing. And when we lean into God, we're able to do more. The details come. Everything comes that we need. And that's at any point in your walk, it's still true. And so I feel like this was like a full circle moment, because honestly, we've talked about so many different pockets of that thing.
I love that you said more. I hear people say this in prayer, like more of you, God. I hear people say it a lot. And I don't think we're actually unpacking what that looks like, because we'll hear like you should die to yourself, deny your flesh, all of those like terms and phrases, but it's what we're talking about. Like when you go deep into it, it's all of the things that we're talking about. And if I say to someone, you have to get up every day and die to your flesh, they're not maybe going to correlate everything that we talked about and actually pushing yourself down and raising up in God. That's not what they're not explaining that part, because I remember not knowing what that meant. I'm like, more God, less me. So I would say the words in the prayer, and then I would go do me.
That's very honest, because that's the society that we live in. We do us first, and then we're like, God, are you okay with this? Can you co-sign?
Oh, yes.
And so if we put God first, it's like, God, what do you want me to do on today? What do you want me to do in this situation, in this season, with what you've given me? And so honestly, I feel like no matter where you are in your walk, you're always going to have moments where you forget to consult God, or you just don't think to consult God and you move too fast. But it's also trusting that you understand what God said and you heard what he said, and that he will direct your path. Because a lot of times we're waiting for that audible, do not do that. Don't go that way, go left. And it's just like, no, you're not going to get that. And so it's just considering God in all things rather than what you want. Lean into what he wants. And then it's less of you and more of him.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about this is that you made me think of something else when you said, it seems like you never get to relax. Like God is always challenging you to the next level. What instantly came to my mind is we should praise him in between more than we actually do. Even if it's just a day before the next challenge comes, before the next time you have to level up, before the next time you have to sacrifice. Take that moment and be like, you know what? I'm not in a challenge right now. I'm not in a life-changing challenge right now. That should be the time where you are in worship mode. It should make your worship that much stronger for God giving you, because he knows, like you said, he gives you peace. He gives you rest. It's like, God, thank you for knowing that this is a time for me to just exhale. And I just love you for that grace. And it just helps you to just give him so much honor for even knowing that you're not going through one of those seasons at that time. And I think we don't appreciate that. It's like things are going good and then we're on to the next goal and we're asking God for something else. How about you appreciate that I'm not taking you through another lesson?
Exactly.
Because last year I had you on the God's Strongest Soldier list. This year I let you slide and you're not even celebrating.
You're like, Lori, can I go to the reserves? I don't want to be on the front line anymore.
And then when you are in the reserves, you're just plotting on the next thing that you want or something like that. And you're not recognizing I should be on my face worshiping right now. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be more grateful for those moments that there is a little stillness because I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely do. If I get a quiet moment, I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Like, let's just stay here for a minute. And he's like, you know what? Enjoy it, wrap it up, let's go. I've loved this conversation. We've hit so many points. We've gone all the way around like this topic. I feel like it was such a well-rounded episode. So I want to say thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed, like I literally have enjoyed. We haven't known each other that long, and I'm like every conversation, I'm just like, when's the next one? It was so good. I appreciate you coming on. And I do love to spotlight Christian business owners. So if you want to plug your Instagram, your business here, this is your moment.
Oh, thank you so much. I first want to thank you for having me on here. I think we have such a great chemistry when it comes to talking about these things. And even off the podcast, I could talk to you for like 4 hours. And be like,
you did.
We did. We actually did. And that's how you know, like, this is alignment from God, just God connecting me to you through Lauren. Shout out to her if she hears this episode. We love you, Lauren.
We really do. Thank you.
We appreciate you. But no, if people want to follow me or get in contact with me, I'm on Instagram, Ashley Curates Life, TikTok, Threads. Everything is Ashley Curates Life. I'm a marketing person, so I'm always talking about marketing and content and how to help Christian business owners grow and make more of an impact online. So you'll see a lot of stuff about that, but you will also see this, what we're doing right here. I take it there. So it's Ashley Curates Life, and that's where you find me.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode, and we will see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you for joining today's conversation. I hope something shared today encouraged you, challenged you, or reminded you that you're not walking this journey alone. If this episode spoke to you, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with someone you think may need it. Until next time, keep showing up, seeking God, and becoming the person He called you to be. Bye.